That's right. Tonight, our focus in the first segment will be squarely on the Indian Kisan, because that is one of the big issues in this election year. Amidst growing farm distress, the expectations are that this week the Modi government would announce an agriculture bonanza. It hasn't done so far, but clearly the underwhelming performance of the agriculture sector in India should be a cause for worry for the government. Tonight, at the very top, we break down Jumla versus reality and what the farmer expects from the union budget. Take a look.
Agriculture, a big poll plank to win a vote bank for any political party in an election year. A sector that has seen underwhelming growth in the NDA regime as compared to the UPA regime. Agriculture Ministry data reveals 36,370 farmers committed suicide between the year 2014 to 2016. Will agriculture and farmers' distress be a liability for the BJP in 2019? This sector sustains 60 crore, or half of India's population, and generates only 18% of the GDP. The losses in Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, and Madhya Pradesh are testimony to the farm distress in India. It even led to an electoral reversal. The Indian farmer continues to live in distress. The Indian farmer looks at the government failing to live up to the promises that it made year on year and failed to implement. Compensations are announced, but does the farmer really receive them?
कोई कर्जा देने को लिए किसानों को तैयार भी नहीं है। गवर्नमेंट से किसान क्रेडिट कार्ड पे लेता है, पेमेंट होता नहीं, उसकी एफआईआर होती है।
कुछ नहीं मिला और ये कर्जा माफ किया, इनने कोई वादा पूरा नहीं किया। बेईमानों का कर्जा माफ हुआ, ईमानदार रोड पे घूमे रह गए।
Take for instance Nagaraj. He owns fields in Mandya district of Karnataka. He complains of relentless struggle to get proper prices for the crops in the market. He claims both the centre and the state budgets announce schemes that never materialize.
ಈಗೇನು ಶ್ರಮದ ಫಲ ಇದೆ, ಆ ಭತ್ತ ಬೆಳೆಯುವಂಥ ಶ್ರಮದ ಫಲ ಬೆವರಿಗೆ ಬೆಲೆ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಆ ಬೆಲೆ ಸಿಗ್ತಾರಿಂದ ನೊಂದು ಆತ್ಮಹತ್ಯೆ ದಿಕ್ಕಿಗೂ ಹೋಯ್ತಾವನೆ.
Nagaraj blames the elected representatives for the plight of farmers today. Fresh data shows average annual growth rate in agriculture and allied activities at approximately 3.9% in the UPA2 regime. The average annual growth rate during the NDA regime has dropped to 2.52%. The government of India today stares at a situation where billionaire fortunes have spiked 35% in the year 2018, juxtaposed by 13.6 crore Indians who make up for the poorest 10% populace who continue to remain in debt. The government's interim budget is expected to announce relief schemes for farmers. Meeting the fiscal deficit target on the back of the expenses would pose to be a huge challenge. Populist measures make it even more daunting. But can the government really ignore the farmers' distress? Bureau Report, India Today.
The big question then that I will raise today on Voternomics 2019, which is the best way to alleviate farmer distress? Is direct cash transfer better than a farm loan waiver? What will it take to double farm incomes by 2022? Has the hike in support price failed to make farming remunerative? Has the Modi government failed to deliver on its promises to the farmers? Just some of the questions we'll raise tonight. Joining me now, Yogendra Yadav, President Swaraj India joins me. He's been taking up farmers' issues relentlessly. Salman So, spokesperson of the Congress, is with us. Naresh Gujral, Member of Parliament of the Rajya Sabha from the ruling NDA. Harish Damodran, the country's preeminent agriculture economist from the Indian Express. And P. Chengal Reddy, Chief Advisor Consortium of Indian Farmers Association. Also joined by Abid Rasool Khan, spokesperson of the TRS. Later we'll be joined tonight by Arvind Subramaniam on the show. But I want to go to all of you with some numbers today. We did a Mood of the Nation survey. Let's take a look at what the Mood of the Nation survey is saying. Come with me as we go to our magic wall. Okay, on the Mood of the Nation survey, let's first start with condition of farmers. We asked the question, has the condition of farmers improved or deteriorated? And this is what our survey says. 34% are saying the condition of farmers has deteriorated in the last 5 years. We also asked, is it the same? 42% said no difference. So you add 34 and 42, 76% or 3 in every 4 are saying same or it's got worse. Only 20% said it's improved. This is the note of caution for the government. Can't say was just 4%. So that's the big picture and why agrarian distress is becoming top of the agenda in this election year. We also asked, have low crop prices caused farmer distress? Yes, said 65%. 65% said yes, low crop prices have indeed caused farmer distress. No said 25%, can't say was 10%. So clearly again, low crop prices are a matter of concern for the Kisan. Waiving of farmer loans. Remember, Rahul Gandhi has already done it in the states where the Congress has come to power. Is it a good move? 68% say yes, please waive farm loan waivers. No, 25%. 25% say waiving of farm loans is not the right step. Can't say was 7%. So clearly, farmers would like their loans waived off, even if some economists believe it isn't the right way forward. Those are the big numbers that I want to start today with. Yogendra Yadav, let me start with you. When you look at those numbers, does it give you a sense that the Kisan is angry, or the Kisan simply feels that he is left out of this new India growth agenda?
Rajdeep, Kisan is angry, Kisan has been angry. What I pick from your survey is that the non-Kisan India is also beginning to be sensitive to the plight of the farmers. That there is almost a national consensus that there can be farm loan waiver. That's a stunning finding to me. So this can't just be farmers. Obviously, non-farmers are also saying so. So there is a national recognition for this, which is to say there is a political opening, probably for the first time, Rajdeep, in about 3 to 4 decades. There seems to be a political opening for doing something for the farmers. As for their plight, you don't need a survey. I don't know if we have anyone from the BJP. Just ask these 4 or 5 questions to anyone in this government. 1, you said you would double farmers' income in 6 years. 3 years have passed. How much have you increased? No answer as yet. 2, you said you have a great scheme which would deliver prices to all farmers. Have you done it in a single commodity this particular year? 3rd, why have you stopped giving figures for farmers' suicide? You had figures till 2016. Why are the figures not being released? Why is the cattle price down in this country? And why is it that in the Kisan insurance scheme, actually farmers are exiting that scheme? These 5 things would tell you what's happening to the farmers.
So you've asked 5 questions. Let's put those questions. We have someone from the government. Naresh Gujral, of course, is part of the ruling NDA alliance. You come from a state with a large farmer population of Punjab, Mr. Gujral. You tell us, are the questions being asked today by Yogendra Yadav, whether it's about crop insurance, whether it's about falling prices, are these valid questions to be asking your government? Has your government done enough to at least provide us data? If not anything else, provide us data as to the condition of farmers in the country at the moment.
Rajdeep, I totally agree with Yogendra Yadav. The farmers are not only angry, they are distressed, they are depressed, because whatever has been done for them has been done too late. This government, when it came to power, had said that the Swaminathan formula would be followed. My party, which is an ally, Shiromani Akali Dal, for 5 years we've been pressing the government. Mr. Badal made numerous trips to Delhi. I raised it in Parliament at least a dozen times that the MSP must be given according to the Swaminathan formula. Yes, for the first time, MSP has been raised substantially, but that was done only 7-8 months back. It has not percolated down as yet. So obviously there is anger. Number 2, I think the main reason is the twin effect of demonetization and GST after that, which followed in quick succession, that knocked the bottom out of the unorganized sector. Now, unorganized sector was hiring a lot of labor who were children of the farmers, who were working in the states, who were working in cities and sending money home. And these were labor intensive industries which were knocked out, like gems and jewelry, like garments, like sports goods, hand tools. Now these kids went back to the farm and there was added pressure on the farm. They've been sitting there for a while, and that has further aggravated the situation. So yes, he's right, there is a lot of anger and something needs to be done about them immediately.
It's interesting that an ally of the government is speaking so candidly. Remember, you're part of the government, so in a sense there is collective responsibility. You can't simply say this is a BJP problem, Mr. Gujral, this is a problem of your government.
But Rajdeep, they represent an agriculture part, Akali Dal represents the farmers, and there's a limit to which you can lie if you represent that kind of a party. I'm glad Mr. Gujral has spoken. So this is the truth. In fact, last week I was with BJP Kisan Morcha person on a television channel. He said, yes, we did not implement Swaminathan Commission formula. Yes, situation is bad. So this is what it
is the solution though implementing the Swaminathan Commission formula? Let's be clear, that formula was before your government as well. You also didn't implement it. Let's be very clear, is the solution, surely the solution is not the giveaways of the Swaminathan Commission formula that will give you 50% above your cost of production. It requires some structural reforms. Where are those structural reforms? You've been in power in the past. Now you've got a new government. The fact is the structural reforms have never been there. The farmer remains hostage in a sense to market conditions. Demonetization takes place, the farmer gets hit. He has no protective valve to, in a sense, secure himself.
Well, first let me correct you. This is not a new government. This government is about to finish its term and this government is on its way out. You see, Prime Minister Modi promised us the moon. He delivered us, and especially the farmers, into the manhole. He's damaged this economy. He's damaged agriculture. They promised. Think about what they promised.
Give me concrete things that you would have done, which this government has not done. Let's talk in terms of concrete measures now.
Yes, I want to tell you about the concrete things that they talked about. If you remember, Prime Minister Modi, when he was candidate Modi, talked about from the farms to the plate. He wanted seamless kind of value chains. Where are they? Where they said we are not going to let middlemen kind of go after farmers. What happened to that? They talked about a national agricultural market. By the way, the ENAM that they talk about, it is going to service maybe 2% of agricultural value in this country. So what is the reality? You talked about, I think Mr. Yadav said, what kind of incomes have grown? Where is this 50% plus? The reality is that between 2002, 2003 to 2011-12, real incomes for farmers grew at 3.6%. In the last 4 years, real incomes have grown at 2.5%. Your GDP, agricultural GDP has grown at 2.5%, whereas it was growing at 5.2%. What exactly are now I think it is too late. Then on top of that, you do demonetization, you do GST. Who gets hurt? Who gets hurt? Farmers and those who are dispossessed, those who don't have a voice. That's the damage. And now Mr. Gujral comes on national television. What about his minister? Why doesn't she resign? She's from the Akali Dal. Why doesn't Harsimrat Kaur Badal resign? If they're so upset, if they're really in the corner of farmers, she should quit. Why are they in government till the end?
Let me get him quickly to respond to that. I want to make this constructive about solution, but quickly respond to that. If you all are so angry, says the Congress, Mr. Gujral, with the way the government has handled agriculture, why doesn't the Akali Dal pull out its ministers of the government?
Well, first let me answer what the Congress spokesman just said. This distress has been caused mainly because for 10 years of the Congress rule, they were raising the MSP by 6 to 7% compounded annually, when the input costs were going up anywhere from 12% to 50%. They did nothing for 10 years, which aggravated the problem. As far as my minister is concerned, as far as our contribution is concerned, let me tell you, for the first time, something is being done for food processing. $14 billion of FDI MOUs have been signed. 11 billion groundbreaking has been done 40 mega food parks are being set up, of which 12 are operational, 10 will be operational within the next 3 months. 304 cold chains have been sanctioned, 105 are operational, 199 will be operational within the next 3 months. 221 million tons, metric tons of preservation of processed food capacity has been added, which will mean a value of 55,000 crores. We are doing whatever best we can within our domain, yet we are putting pressure on the government every day that please do something for the farmer. And I can tell you something on national television, if something is not done for the farmer in this budget, then I'm sorry, we are also out.
No, 1 minute. You are saying if there is no major scheme announced for the farmers in the budget, the Akali Dal will walk out of the government? Is that what you are saying? That you will actually walk out of this government? Is that an empty threat you are giving?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So either you know that the government is coming up, either you know, Mr. Gujarat, the government is coming up with a big scheme.
Television.
Either you know the government is coming up with a big scheme, or you actually are going to bite the bullet.
I only hope they're coming out with a big scheme.
Okay.
I only hope that they're coming out. I am being very candid with you, Rajdeep.
Yes.
I only hope, because this is absolutely essential.
Okay, you're making a big breaking news, which I should be telling my producer. Akali Dal says they will walk out if there is no major announcement on farm sector in the union budget. But let's look at the possibilities. What can be done? Chengal Reddy, as a farmer leader, what do you want the government to do? What is it that would give the farmer, you believe, and even at this late stage of the Modi government's tenure, a sense that this government cares for the Kisan? Interest on farm loan waivers, there's a sense, will only benefit some farmers, not all farm waivers, an interest waiver.
See, profitability for farmer is two ways. One is to MSP. The second one is, can we reduce the cost of production by any manner? This way farmer can, we can make it available to farmer. Now, if you look at the problems of farmer in the last 4 or 5 years, the input costs have been going up, especially in terms of labor cost has been going up, where therefore the farmer was finding it difficult. The second problem that farmer confronted was there is the 60% rain-fed cultivation remained the same, and there was no new technology. So these are the problems which were there in the last not only 4 or 5 years, actually they are there since 1990s liberalization. Now here the political between Congress and BJP, to be honest with you, we farmers are, they look to our devil and deep sea. I mean, I have nothing to choose, because for 8 years Congress kept Swaminathan committee report under wraps. Now something they say, but we are, now they say something they will try to do. But
no, but let's be very clear, Mr. Chengal Reddy, just a minute, the Chengal, the Swaminathan report is not going to raise productivity. We need to, and productivity is not the issue. For example, Harish Damodharan, just a minute.
One second, please. These technical developments, I mean, providing water was part and parcel of Swaminathan report. I mean, that report has a comprehensive approach. It's not only MSP. Sorry, I need to correct you. That's not correct.
Okay. Given that, Harish Damodharan, you've been telling me for the longest time that the real challenge is how do you, make farming more remunerative. It is a challenge of how do you get the Kisan back to seeing farming as remunerative. Low crop prices at the moment have crushed the farmer in recent years. Do you believe that there is a solution to making farming more remunerative? Can there be something that the Modi government can do even at this late stage? Or will they go for the populist measure, waiving of interest, for example, on farm loans?
See, waiving of interest on farm loans is a very bad idea, and it doesn't make sense at all. See, today, I mean, I think your own survey says that about 65% of farmers feel that crop prices are very unremunerative, very low, and that is the main problem. You know, and I'm very clear that that is the problem. See, the loan waiver and all is not is only a symptom. You know, your debts go up only because your prices, the prices of the crops, the realizations on your crops is very low. So what needs to be addressed is prices, and prices. right? And low prices are a result of two things. One is lack of liquidity in produce markets and lack of sentiment. So anything which you do today has to boost liquidity and sentiment. And if I were the Modi government, I would just do two things. First is I will come out with an omnibus legislation, which will scrap all controls on stocking, on sale, on export, and on domestic movement of farm commodities. Okay, the government should give an explicit legislative commitment saying that we will not ban export of onion if prices go up a little. We will not ban export of milk powder. We will not ban export of pulses. And we'll allow anybody to we'll allow the so we'll allow the farmer to sell anytime, anywhere, and to anyone, and if say a Cargill or anybody wants to buy 1 million tons of pulses, let them buy it. Okay, this is the first thing which I'll say. Come out with an omnibus legislation to scrap all APMC laws and all restrictions. And the second thing which I will do is bring back cash in the mandis, amend the Income Tax Act to allow sale of produce in mandis in cash. Okay, I'm not saying you can ban cash transactions in real estate, but in agriculture, the reality is you cannot have digital transactions in mandis. You have to bring back cash, and that will help improve liquidity and sentiment. Today, the crisis is of liquidity and sentiment.
Very important point. The crisis of liquidity and
I'll do nothing else in the budget. See,
given that Abid Rasool Khan, your party, and let's come to specific. The Telangana Rashtra Samiti, which has just come back to power in Telangana, has gone on about its Raitu Bandhu scheme.
It's like
the Raitu Bandhu scheme, according to the Telangana government, is a game changer, and this is the model to be adopted across the country. Provide the farmer 10,000 rupees per acre per crop per year and give the cash directly to the farmer as an incentive. You've also got the Naveen Patnaik government, which is now taking it further even to landless farmers and saying 12,500 per year. Do you believe direct cash transfer is the answer?
Yes, Rajdeep, it has been proved that it is the best way to support the farmers at the time of needs. We eliminate the middlemen, we eliminate the distress of the farmers, that they go to money lenders and take money, and then the cash is readily available in their account when they need it for their planting, and it is done in 2 installments so that for both the crops the money is available. And apart from that, the government has linked the Bima scheme, wherein 5 lakh rupees is of insurance, and then the whole passbook system has been so streamlined with data management that about 60 lakh farmers have been totally enrolled in this scheme, and their data is available with the government. And the beauty of the scheme is about 92% of the beneficiaries are below 5 acres, out of which around 80% are below 1 acre. So the myth that it helps the big farmers is wrong, because 92% are farmers who have holding less than 5 acres, and a major part of it is less than 1 acre. And then Telangana government has also not stopped here. We have worked relentlessly on the water management scheme, whether it be Mission Bhagirath or Mission...
but let's talk about whether this can work nationally. Just a minute, Abid Rasool Khan.
Let me complete. Then we have...
No, 1 minute. We know, sir, nobody denies that your government has made the effort. The question is whether this can work nationally. Do you believe, Yogendra Yadav, direct cash transfers can work nationally? Is that the solution? Definitely. What the Raitu Bandhu scheme did in Telangana, what now Naveen Patnaik is claiming to do with his Kalia scheme in Odisha?
The whole problem is in trying to think of the solution, one key that will solve everything. No, there is none. If someone is very seriously in our family, we don't say whether he needs antibiotics or he needs tonic or better diet. Well, they need everything. For farmers, you need 2 or 3 sets of things. One, some emergency measures to just bring them out of the deep crisis they are in right now, which has to be 2. 1, guaranteed remunerative prices. And Harish is absolutely right. Price. That's the first demand. Second, unlike others, I do believe that a one-time loan waiver has to be part of a package. It is necessary,
Will it
not
be a
sufficient.
one-time loan waiver? Will it be a one-time? Most people believe loan waivers is actually pushing the farmers in the wrong direction today. And the farmers who are still dependent on money lenders in the village will not benefit from a loan waiver. They are outside the formal loan waiver scheme.
That's the whole problem, Rajdeep. We have not been able to persuade the media, including sensitive people like you, to read the bills that we have proposed. All India Kisan Sangharsh Samanvay Samiti, we've placed 2 bills before the parliament, which addresses exactly this, which says it cannot only be those who are taking loans from banks, that private money lenders have to be brought in, and we need to create a long-term institutional mechanism by way of a national debt and disaster relief commission. So that's the kind of thing we are talking about. But these are emergency measures. These are just the immediate emergency things. After that, you need structural reforms, the entire marketing chain. You need to change ecological systems of ecological agriculture. You need to change irrigation patterns. But this is when my patient is out of the ICU. Right now, my patient is in ICU, and if someone says, well, he should do pranayam, I would say, look, for heaven's sake, I'm not against pranayam, I'm not against morning walks, but let him come out of the ICU.
Is that how the Congress sees it? When you made these announcements, 10 days, within 10 days of forming governments in these 3 states of Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, you announced that you will go ahead with farm loan waivers. You've gone ahead with it. Have you measured the consequences of what you're doing on the ground?
Well,
in Karnataka, for example, many farmers are complaining that 8 months after the government has been formed, they still haven't got the benefits.
Look, when you talk about have you measured the consequences of giving out farm loans, I ask you and anybody else, have we measured the consequences of loan write-offs worth lakhs of crores for industries? Have we? Why do we always talk about people who are in terrible distress? They're at the lowest levels of our economic strata. We always go after them. Farm loan waiver, this is a huge crisis now.
No, interestingly, in our survey, 68% are saying yes, there should be farm loan waiver. So it's not as if India is saying we will not reach out to the Kisan.
I'm sorry, I've never seen so many questions raised about one particular loan, whereas you have. Look at what's happened to public sector banks. Look at why we have NPA crises. Look at the write-offs in the formal sector. It's crazy. But this government has actually damaged the interests of the farmers, and that is why you see so much distress. You know what? One of the first principles any government, whether it is this government or the next government, whatever government comes in, first, please do no harm. Do no harm. That should be the first principle.
Okay.
And this government has done that. Now, one more thing.
Yes.
Please do not make fools out of people. If you come up with a Fasal Bima Yojana and you have 85% of your premium goes to your insurance companies, farmers are only able to collect about 15% of the payouts. That is making a fool of these people, right? Please do not make fools of people. And to Mr. Gujral, right now you'll say that you're going to quit the alliance. Next, I know what's going to happen. You will not. This government is not going to come back to power. But if they did, you'll be the first to join them. That's the truth, and people know it. Please stop making fools of people.
We will get Mr. Gujral to politically respond, but Mr. Gujral, you tell me, do you have a scheme in mind? You said on this program today, you hope that the government will come up with a big scheme for farmers. Remember, this is a fixed budget of this government over 5 years. So, over these years, you haven't brought that scheme, which was a game changer. Lots of ideas like Fasal Bima Yojana, soil card were announced. They haven't had the desired effect on the ground. Some of the ideas good, like neem coated urea. Many believe that's a good positive step forward. My point is, what is that scheme that you would like to see that will give you a sense that this government is truly farm sensitive, that it is sensitive to the concerns of the farmer?
I think right now immediate requirement is direct transfer to every farmer. Don't forget, 40% of the farmers in this country are landless farmers. When you do a loan waiver, only those who have land get the benefit. And there also, it's the bigger farmer who gets the benefit. The smaller farmer is always dependent on the money lender, so he is not benefited. So I think right away, we need to transfer money to the bank accounts of every single farmer, irrespective of the fact whether he owns land or not. That is to solve the immediate problem. But going forward, I agree, it is nothing but remunerative price which is going to make a difference. If the farmer gets the right price for his crop, obviously he will have money in his pocket. That is one. Number two, I think every single chief minister should control the vigilantes. You know what is happening is, Rajdeep, basically animal husbandry, that adds income to a farmer's, especially a marginal farmer's income, just keeping one cow or two. Now they're actually scared because of these vigilantes. So they are not keeping cows anymore. So these vigilantes need to be controlled by all state governments.
It's your government which has brought this legislation. It's your government in Uttar Pradesh which is doing what it is, which is ensuring that the farmers for whom the cattle was a source of income is now a source of distress. So, you know, Mr. Gujral, you can of course claim, distance yourself from the BJP on these issues, but it is your government at the end of the day. It is your government which has brought this legislation, and they will not turn back because there's a cultural agenda also which is being pushed along with the...
Where is the BJP? Why isn't the BJP here?
The BJP may not be here on the program because their representative couldn't make it, but the fact is that we have in Naresh Gujral someone who's a representative at the end of the day. It's a government. You know, let's not make it. It's a BJP-led NDA government.
That's
so
correct.
Therefore, the policies which are brought in affect all.
I am not a representative of the BJP.
You're not, I know.
I don't agree. I have fundamental differences about this. I feel that vigilantes must be controlled, whether it is in UP or whether it's in the states which Congress rules now. They're ruling in 5 states. They also need to do that.
Let me very quickly ask you to check.
Yes. A very important question of this cattle. I'm glad he's raised it. This thing of stray cattle menace, you hear all over the country. This is such a major problem for Indian farmers today. And if in Uttar Pradesh BJP pays political price, one of the immediate cause would be the entire cattle economy has collapsed. Cattle prices have gone down. Farmers are not able to sleep. They are spending their nights in their field. They don't have the money for barbed wire. The entire and milk prices have dropped. I mean, the whole cattle economy, and Mr. Gujral was absolutely right. That little saving from cattle is that critical difference that farmer has between having a decent livelihood and not so decent livelihood. And when that goes, then it collapses. That's what's happening right now.
Where we are looking at the big issues that confront the Modi government ahead of budget 2019, confront the country. In fact, Rahul Gandhi's promise, for example, of a guaranteed minimum income. Can it be a game changer ahead of the 2019 elections? Remember, this announcement comes even as the Modi government wants to announce its own income support scheme of some kind, possibly even in the budget on February 1. What Rahul Gandhi's pitch has done is brought the idea of a universal basic income back in the limelight. This was an idea that was first mooted in 2016-17 in the economic survey by the chief economic advisor Arvind Subramaniam. Arvind Subramaniam now joins us from the United States. I appreciate you joining us, Mr. Subramaniam. You tell us, is this an idea whose time has come? What are the contours of this universal basic income scheme that as you now propose it in 2019?
Yeah, first of all, I think, Rajdeep, this has been an idea whose time has been coming for some time now. If you recall, after we wrote about this in the survey, in fact, in the last, apart from the fact that it was discussed, and debated furiously, in the last 1 year, you can see that, many kind of variants of this have already either been announced or implemented. For example, Jammu and Kashmir first was thinking about this, then Telangana implemented Raitu Bandhu, Odisha implemented Kalia, Sikkim has talked about a complete universal basic income, and now, of course, the Indian National Congress has announced a minimum income guarantee for the poor, which I'll come back to in a second. And of course, as you said, the budget might have things as well. And most recently, my colleagues and I wrote a piece on how to adapt that idea to the current circumstances, which is, to provide a basic minimum income for nearly all rural households. So there are many variants. It's been there, and it seems to me that it's an idea whose time has been coming, and maybe now really a decisive moment in the next few months.
It's interesting. I read that article that you and your colleagues put out in the Business Standard. Now, as you said, there are various variants of the scheme. There's the Raitu Bandhu scheme, which is a direct cash transfer based on acreage and crops. There is the scheme which Naveen Patnaik wants to bring in, where he also wants to bring in landless laborers and small tenants. I want to understand from you, do you believe that all rural households, therefore, should be covered irrespective of of the amount of land a particular farmer owns, or should it be driven by exactly who needs it most? Because the challenge is to ensure basic income for those who need it most.
Yeah, and Rajdeep, this is a point that I think is very important, that you see, throughout our history, we've always said, let's find who the poorest are and help them. You know, that's all anti-poverty programs are based on that. And it requires the notion of identifying and targeting, quote unquote, the poor household, right? I think the appeal and advantage of a universal basic income is that you get away from that targeting, both on philosophical grounds, and we don't have to get into that, but also on grounds that we have seen that targeting and identifying, you know, poor is actually much less easy than we think it is. And I think the historical experience, things have improved in the last, you know, few years. I don't want to take away, but it's still not very comprehensive in coverage. There's a lot of waste, a lot of duplication. So in some ways, conceptually, we have to get away from the idea that we can still find and target the needy and just give them the money that we want. I think that's the conceptual. And I think the Congress's proposal does not make that conceptual leap. It's still, I think, about finding the poor and giving it to them. So I think we need to be really clear on this, that universal basic income or some variant of that, which is my quasi-universal, requires a conceptual leap, both on philosophical but especially on implementation grounds, to move away from that. Which brings me to, you know, Raitu Bandhu and Kalia. Same problem. You know, we think it's an agrarian crisis. So Raitu Bandhu is giving it only to landed farmers, and Kalia is trying to find tenant farmers and laborers. Again, it's this, you know, we will try and find who the farmer is. We know it's an administrative nightmare to do this. And it's not that the intentions are not there, it's just very, very difficult. So that's why we need to move away from that into, and that was our idea which we gave, is not to target in the poor beneficiary who in principle that may be the right approach, but in practice it turns out to be very difficult. Therefore, focus more on excluding out some, you know, obviously relatively well-off rural households. So that's why our proposal is conceptually quite different from Raitu Bandhu and Kalia and even the, you know, minimum income guarantee that the Congress party is proposing.
Let me therefore ask you in conclusion, do you believe that this scheme can be, that the financial resources are there, A, and B, do you fear that it will lead to leakages? Do you fear that schemes of this kind, by the very nature where the state is expected to provide delivery, leads to leakages?
Let's take them in reverse order. You know, all schemes will have leakages. The question is, how do we minimize them, both in design and implementation? By definition, in a near universal scheme, there's less leakage because you want to give it to almost everyone. So you don't have to target, so there's no corruption, etc., etc. So by definition, a universal thing where you just send checks to every bank account has less leakage. On the first one, I think the resources, look, resources are a function of ambition and political will. You know, if you have the ambition to give it to all the poor or in the country or universal, you need a lot of resources. So we try to do a calculation that try to, you know, find a trade-off between the crisis is in rural India, so let's focus on rural India. Let's make it universal, but not completely universal because costs are affected. Because also, how much are you going to give? And so we made a trade-off and said that 75 to 80% coverage of rural households, 18,000 a month, seems to be reasonable. 1.3% of GDP is reasonable. And I think this is where I think the innovation in our proposal is to say, let's do it joint center and states, because both have resources and both need to implement it together. I think going forward, that is going to be critical. I mean, I don't think any one party should do it alone.
Okay. Arvind Subramaniam, You've given us a broad contour. We could go on speak. We will get you back at greater length, maybe if the scheme actually comes into being. But I appreciate your taking the time off and joining me there from the United States. Thank you very much for giving us a sense of why you believe this is an idea whose time has come. Do you all believe across the table, Naresh Gujral, is this an idea whose time has come? Let me go to each of you. You, Mr. Gujral, and then I'll go to the others as well.
Rajdeep, I think right now it's a good concept, but I don't think it's doable. Primarily for the reason, how do you balance your books? Today, the central government has to pay salaries and pensions. They can't reduce the expenditure on your defense forces. So what is left? Your social programs. So you then will have to willy-nilly cut down on your social programs. Now, which social programs suffer? That is a major decision where all parties will have to sit together and decide. So this is a damn good slogan to start with. But I don't think it's doable right away because, as I said, we just don't have the resources right now. 1.3% of GDP is almost 2 trillion rupees. I don't know where this money is going to come from. And if we really do it, then you'll have huge deficits, which will mean, again, spiraling inflation.
Let me bring in Chengal Reddy. Chengal Reddy, do you believe that this is a scheme, an idea whose time has come, particularly for those rural households who need it most? You heard Arvind Subramaniam saying 75 to 80% of rural households.
Absolutely, definitely it is required and it will be of immense help to the poor people. But you must learn, we have to divide it, the poorness and the farmers and the landless labor. We have to categorize it. If you want farmers to be better off and agriculture to be developed, there are other areas which legal and other things. But ultimately the question is, today's discussion is, if tomorrow this budget comes, will farmers trust Mr. Modi? Well, that is the billion-dollar question, which we have seen in 2014. Mr. Modi made many promises, but almost for 5 years he didn't implement. And tomorrow, even if he comes out with any promises, we farmers are not really, we have no belief in Mr. Modi. He has lost our trust. He has lost our trust completely.
That's an interesting way to put it. And I will then bring Yogendra Yadav to take both his political and his new hat of reaching out to farmers, because usually steps that are taken in the last few months of a government are not seen to carry the voter. There is a trust deficit. The point that Chengal Reddy is making, can the government overcome the trust deficit that the Kisan faces today, when you made announcements in the past and not implemented them on the ground?
To overcome the deficit now, when you have just 100 days left in this government, and to try and cleverly present a 6th budget within 5 years, there's a constitutional issue.
The government said it's a vote on account. They will not.
In which case, they should not be announcing any major scheme. If that's vote on account,
they can do it. They can do it after the budget. It doesn't have to be in the budget. They can make a grand scheme for the farmers outside the budget as well.
Constitutionally, technically, everything is possible. By going by political ethics, now the government should not announce things which is to be implemented by the next government. Any big declaration on farming and agriculture will have to be implemented by the next government.
It's been done by the Madhya Pradesh government. Shivraj Singh Chauhan had made an announcement. Karnataka governments have done it in the past. That's the precedent of this country. You want votes. My point to you, is this now about, do you believe the farmer will vote according to who announces the better scheme? Congress is claiming that they will give a minimum guarantee scheme. The BJP could have a similar scheme of its own.
Look, the opposition can only announce, opposition cannot implement anything.
Yes.
But a government which has not done anything to farmers' satisfaction for nearly 5 years, I think no matter what they announce now, it is impossible for them to win the trust of the farmers. But on the larger question of the universal basic income, I think we tend to confuse any cash transfers with universal basic income. Neither Telangana nor Odisha nor Rahul Gandhi's declaration is universal basic income.
Yes.
The question we should be asking is, yes, cash transfers are important, they are useful, but will they take place at the cost of everything else? Are they supplementing that, or are they taking away the existing scheme? That is a question we need to ask.
Okay. Let's leave it there. We've had at least a 1 hour of a serious talk on the farmers of this country. We need to have much more of that, because in the build-up to 2019, it is the Kisan who could become a critical X factor in deciding who comes to power in Delhi. And it's perhaps unfortunate that both the media and the politicians tend to remember agriculture only at election time. Thanks very much for joining me on Voternomics 2019. We'll be back tomorrow with another topic, another subject. For now, goodbye.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.